We're going to talk about what has happened in Ukraine on this day of the Russian invasion. We'll examine the actions and the strategies, both military and political. Now, if this is your first time watching, my name is Darren Gertis. I'm a professor who's built multiple leadership programs at Charleston Southern University. So we'll also view these events through the lens of leadership. And I also wrote a book about Zelensky called I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride, and you can find it on Amazon.
You're not going to see my face because I want you to see the full screen. So today, Monday, June 27th, what we see is the president of Moldova is in Ukraine, connecting with the Ukrainians, saying, look, we're working on our side to make sure that Transnistria does not become a problem for either Ukraine or for Moldova. At the same time, there's a terrible incident in Ukraine. There's a mall that's been attacked. This is terrorism. This is nothing but terrorism. 21 people still missing after a Russian missile hit a crowded shopping center. There is no military target anywhere around this crowded shopping center. It's nothing but terrorism, plain and simple. Now, Zelensky addressed this in his daily speech. He said today Russian strike at a shopping mall in Kremenchuk is one of the most defiant terrorist acts in European history. A peaceful city, an ordinary shopping mall with women, children, ordinary civilians. Before the air alarm, there were about 1,000 people. Fortunately, as far as we know, many people managed to get out in time. They were taken out in time, but there were still people inside, staff and visitors. Only totally insane terrorists who have no such place on earth can strike missiles at such an object. And that's right. I mean, there's no military value at all to what was going on there. So, I mean, it's just terrorism, plain and simple. The question remains, why is this? And this is Kremenchuk, this is the shopping center, and so it's showing you where on the map it is. And so I wanted you to see that. The British government's calling it terrorist. A lot of governments are calling it terrorist. But what's going on? Well, there's a NATO summit that's coinciding. The G7 just met. The NATO summit's about to begin. NATO is about to expand from a rapid force of about 40,000 soldiers to a rapid force of about 300,000 soldiers in Western Europe. At the same time, the British are talking about, look, this is General Sir Patrick Sanders saying we can't have our 1937 moment. 1937, the British were not prepared. They were not ready for what was coming down the pike, and they're not going to be caught off guard again. He said the British Army is not mobilizing to provoke war, it's mobilizing to prevent war. So things just keep heating up everywhere you go. Last thing, German Chancellor Scholz said that we need to have this unity and not let Putin split us. And so at the G7, he says, we must not walk into the trap Putin sets of asserting that the world is divided into the global West, the G7, and its friends in the North, and the rest. That's not true. That's really wise on Scholz's part to be thinking along those lines. He invited 5 counterparts from South Africa, India, Argentina, Senegal, and Indonesia, but none of them are really buying the Western perspective. Okay, none of the visiting leaders were enthusiastic about the war in Ukraine, especially not their effect on the economies. 3 of them abstained from voting on a UN resolution. The president of Senegal, he's also the head of the African Union. He said that the poorest countries are caught between the hammer of war and the anvil of sanctions. I get that perspective, but the Indian prime minister, he's buying oil from the Russians. The president of South Africa, he was taking aim at the West. I mean, so the world is being split, and this critical diplomacy, this great paragraph here, critical diplomacy over a food crisis in the West has belatedly gone on the offensive by insisting that Putin and not the Western sanctions that's responsible for the collapse in grain exports. So he was insisting that it's Putin and not Western sanctions that's responsible for the collapse. But Russia is releasing its own counter propaganda, and that's where we are.
Hey, if this video was helpful, hit like to help others find it in YouTube's algorithm. Subscribe so that you can stay informed. And one more thing, if you are moved to contribute to the humanitarian aid for Ukraine, I have a link below for Samaritan's Purse. If you want to give, be sure to give only to reputable organizations. There's a lot of scammers out there. Thanks for your time.